Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The introduction of the gunsmith feature this year is by far one of my favorite innovations that we've ever seen in Call of Duty. The ability to create so many alternative versions of one weapon that all perform well in their own unique ways, I think is awesome. And to top it all off, the ability to create secret weapon variants and other classic weapons that aren't actually listed as base weapons in the game is even cooler. Now, today we're focusing in on those secret weapons, those hidden variants, and breaking down 3 of them that have received various buffs in some of the recent updates that make them better than ever. And we've also got a pretty interesting honorable mention towards the end as well. So if you enjoyed the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it. And of course, if you're new to the channel, each and every day we are always covering the latest Call of Duty news, intel, and other information. So feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on to stay on top of all of that stuff. Also, round 2 of the G Fuel Code Madness tournament is currently going on. The 2 people with the most code uses at the very end of the tourney actually get their own custom shaker cups. So if you want to use code Immortal at checkout, you get 30% off of your order, and it counts on literally everything on the site, from full-on tubs to even these simple starter packs, which are only a few bucks. So feel free to check out that link down below. Anyways, as I mentioned, there are plenty of secret weapons in-game this year that sure, tons of people might know about already, but they are still secret in the sense that you can only build them via certain attachment combinations, and they're also not listed in-game on the weapons list either. So it's kind of like, if you know, you know, if you don't, you don't. Now, the most recent secret weapon that got a very significant buff was that of the AK74 or AK74u, which was supposed to originally get buffed back in the 1.15 update, but the change didn't actually take place until this past Tuesday with the most recent hotfix. However, either way, the main change that really makes the AK74u way better now revolves around the 545 ammunition, as in the most recent patch, Infinity Ward increased the close and medium range damage on the 545x39mm rounds that the AK74 utilizes. So any class where you would have the 545 rounds equipped is ultimately going to feel a lot better in those close and medium range fights. But really, the AK74u is what I find to have changed the most out of everything. Now, in order to make the AK74u, you are going to need a few things on your AK47. For starters, you will want to be using the 8.1-inch compact barrel, which will end up increasing your overall movement speed and also your ADS speed too. So right away, you'll notice a pretty big difference in how the AK47 feels and performs, as that'll also add a little more recoil to the weapon itself. Then you are going to want to be using the skeleton stock. Personally, I am using the Revolution variant for the AK47, so that's why my stock looks more like a coat hanger than anything else, but this stock in its natural form is the most similar to what we saw back in like COD 4 on that AK74u. And once again, this will end up increasing the ADS speed and your strafing speed too. Following that, I personally like to use the Merc foregrip. This is definitely the best grip to use on most CQC weapons. For instance, this is pretty much my go-to on all of the SMGs. And because the AK74u does feel so much like an SMG at the end of the day, this grip is going to give you great hip-fire accuracy, and it'll also limit that recoil some as well. So kind of a win-win there. Then I've got the stippled grip tape on there per usual. You guys already know this is the wave on pretty much any gun. And of course, the main focus of this whole setup is going to be those 545 rounds, which are the final attachment here. Now, previously, the AK74u was a very mediocre weapon and class setup, right? It was a lot faster than the stock AK47, but the combination of more recoil and less damage all around was something that made it a little lackluster in my own opinion. But now, honestly, everything is different. At those long ranges, yeah, this will basically feel like you are using an SMG. It will still get quite a few hit markers because of that damage drop-off we get with the ammo conversion. However, up close, the AK74u is leaps and bounds better than it was before. I believe what I heard is it's a consistent 3-shot kill, and with a few headshots thrown into the mix, you are going to be absolutely deleting people with this thing. Then in medium range fights, honestly, it can hold its own there too because it also got buffed in that department as well. So truly, this AK74u is a very viable weapon at the moment. It feels almost like the perfect hybrid of sorts if you ask me, as it's mobile, you know, you can run around very quickly with it. It's got a good ADS speed and a good sprint to fire speed, and it also deals a pretty hefty amount of damage around those CQC engagements. So it's great for any player who is actively pushing the spawns or just playing around the objectives, and the buff here certainly changed a lot. However, the 5.45 rounds also come into play on another secret weapon, and that is the AK-12, or at least what the game refers to as the AK-12. If you didn't know, in the campaign you can actually pick up the AK-12 off the ground, but going off of what we have seen in the past, to me at least, it doesn't physically look a whole lot like it, but it does perform pretty similar to what we have seen before. Now, while these first two secret weapons are both AK-47 variants and they both run off of the 5.45 ammunition, they do feel somewhat different from one another, as that AK-74u is going to be built much more for CQC and medium range fights, whereas the AK-12 honestly is a lot more versatile, I guess we could say. Now, in order to get this full AK-12 setup, this time around you want to be using the Spetsnaz Elite Barrel, and this will actually increase the damage range some. So while you do lose out on some damage range with the 5.45 rounds, this will help sort of counterbalance that to an extent. So medium and long range fights won't feel as difficult as they would on the AK-74u class. Anyways, aside from that barrel, you will also want to be using the close quarters stock. This will help with the aim down sight speed some, and visually, this is just about as close as you can get to the previous editions of the AK-12 that we've seen in the franchise. I also prefer to use the Commando foregrip on there for some more recoil management, and of course the stippled grip tape as well on top of the 5.45 rounds, which round things out. Now, like I said, here you are going to find it is way easier to take people out at some longer ranges. I will say the range is definitely not as good as the regular AK-47 with the 7.62 rounds, but then in addition to that, this class also can excel in close and medium range fights as well, although it is slightly slower than the AK-74u. So, for a rushing playstyle, I would probably pick the AK-74u over the AK-12, but for a more well-balanced playstyle, the AK-12 fits into that very, very well. Then, getting into our third secret weapon, this time around we are breaking down the Honey Badger, which has actually been pretty decent for a few weeks now. This is the oldest out of all the buffs that we've got today. However, it has been a minute since we featured this weapon on the channel, and back when we initially showed off this variant, it really wasn't all that good. But in the time since, it has undergone some pretty serious changes. So a few updates back, the M13, which is what the Honey Badger is based off of for this build, ended up getting a range increase, a reduction to the recoil, and also a damage increase to headshots, which all directly affect just how well the Honey Badger can perform in-game. So for this variant, you'll want to be using the Tempest Cyclone barrel, which is going to add in a built-in suppressor, just like the Honey Badger had back in the day. Then we've got the close quarters stock, the Commando foregrip, the stippled grip tape, and most importantly, the 300 blackout rounds, as these are going to increase the range and also remove tracers and enemy skulls. Meaning when you take someone out, no one on that enemy team is going to have any idea where you're at unless you are directly in their lines of sight. So this is a very sneaky class. It's great for flanking and just playing in stealth mode, and now it's better than ever thanks to that buff a few updates back. Now, one brief honorable mention I did want to bring up is that of the MP5K, which did not directly receive a buff. However, the 10mm ammo on the MP5 did actually get nerfed a few updates back, which now makes the 9mm ammo that the MP5K uses a whole lot more viable. Basically, now there's not as much of a disadvantage when using those smaller rounds. So to make the MP5K, all you really need is the FSS mini barrel and the FTAC collapsible stock. However, to make it even better, I also throw on the monolithic suppressor to increase the range, the Merc foregrip, and also the stippled grip tape, as all of that will just make it even more effective in a variety of engagements. Anyways, with all of that being said, those are now the best secret weapons in Modern Warfare in my own opinion, and that is going to wrap things up for today. If you guys enjoyed the video, let me know by dropping a like on it, and of course, if you're new here, and you want to stay up to date with the latest Call of Duty news and intel, updates and leaks, and pretty much everything else in between, feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on, that way you'll always know when I post a new video. As I mentioned earlier, round 2 of G Fuel Code Madness is officially underway, so if you want to help me get one step closer to getting my very own Shaker Cup, be sure to use code IMMORTAL at checkout. It is based off of code uses, so even if you want to buy a single starter pack for just a few bucks, it helps out just as much as buying a tub or anything else. Plus, code Immortal will get you 30% off while I am still in the bracket. But once again, thanks so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.